Overdress? 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 Fellow cultured members of society, welcome to yet another video in which you guys have apparently dubbed this the sort of DF podcast at this point, where I sit down. Finally, I got lights on both ends. I had to bust out one of my really old lights to make this look better, and so now you have a nicely lit face and nothing much else to show, to be honest. So, it's been a bit over 2 days since we have gotten the big Overdress news, the actual reveal of the series, the direction that the game is going, you know, some people calling it a brand new game, all in all, with like a Vanguard skin, and you know, all kinds of people just discussing it. I think I've been trying to watch like every single possible like first impressions video or like discussion video about Overdress that anyone's ever done on YouTube so far, and it's been really fun, like hearing people's different opinions, and like I have my own that like kind of differ from some people's, but we all kind of come together and everyone's still like overall quite positive about everything going forward. So, you know, I promised it earlier after I talked about all the news, but I wanted to actually make a video myself talking about my own first impressions of the new series. Like, what am I really thinking? How am I really feeling? Those of you that have been talking to me on my Discord or on my Twitter or on my streams and stuff like that already know how I feel about the game because I've been talking about it extensively, but I haven't really addressed this in like, you know, my actual YouTube channel yet, so let's do that right now. So I, you know, have some bullet points, but this is going to be super structured, so you know, if you have something else to do, you can leave this on in the background and just kind of like listen in if you feel like it. But for me, honestly, from the moment I started posting the videos or like even started streaming the reveal, one of the greatest things to me so far has been like, I am just overjoyed by the amount of people showing interest. Like, I've seen so many people going like, oh, I haven't played Vanguard since the reboot, but I really want to play it now. So many people coming back. I've seen people even go like, I've never actually played Vanguard before, or like I just play Zero, or people like that have never actually touched the TCG before, just going like, Overdress looks so hype, I really want to try it, I'm so gonna get into it, like $4 is no excuse, I have to try it now, I might as well buy all the starter decks, you know, all that kind of stuff. Seeing that is probably one of my favorite things about this already. Like, I'm not even so focused right now on like what, you know, the future of Overdress will be. Of course I actually am, but what I'm saying is it's so important to me to see everyone get so hype right now about this news. Like, everyone coming back, playing again. You know, I think we all kind of agree that this should have been the reboot in the first place. Like, if this happened instead of V-Series, I feel like, sure, it would have lost some people, because then it would have been like, you know, you've been still telling the G players like, oh, you're losing your stuff, you know, but at the same time, this feels like the best kind of rebrand possible. And for me, like, I completely agree with that as well. Like, before I even talk about all like my emotions and what I feel about in terms of Overdress itself, like, for me, part of the reason why I do this channel as a whole, like why my channel is focused on Vanguard, you know, there's plenty of people that they make like just like card game videos, right? So they'll make videos about like Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Vanguard, Digimon, like whatever they want, and they'll just kind of like put it all under their one channel. And you know, they'll have people that watch certain card game videos, watch certain other card game videos and stuff like that, and that's perfectly fine. Like, I think it's actually probably better to brand yourself as like a TCG YouTuber rather than like Yu-Gi-Oh YouTuber or Pokemon YouTuber. You know, there's plus and minuses to all of them, but part of the big reasons why I run this channel as like a Vanguard only channel with like some very slight exceptions is primarily because I feel like, for me, it's a way to measure the game's growth and to show, like, you know, when people get really hype, you know, and they're just talking in the comments, people are going crazy, like discussing things, that shows to me that there's a lot of hype in the game, that there's a lot of people interested in the game, there's a lot of people invested in the game. And like the V-Series, especially basically most of 2020, definitely felt like the kind of bottom pit of that. Like, there was a lot less people talking about it, people were more interested in playing Zero than the actual TCG and stuff like that, which, you know, in usual cases should not be the case, that like the digital adaptation of a game kind of surpasses the TCG, and I don't think that's going to be the case ever again for a while. And honestly, my kind of objective with all that is to, in my own ways and like using my own tools in certain way, like, this is kind of reflecting on me as a person. Like, I don't like doing things just for the sake of doing them, or like, if I'm living, I want to feel that I'm alive. That probably sounds really weird out of context, but like, I don't want to let time just like pass by, but I want to move with time together, if that makes sense. So I never like do, like, if I'm doing something for fun, like very often I'm just doing it for fun, but there's usually an objective at the end of it. And for me, like, the objective of even doing this, of like sharing my passion for Vanguard, dedicating most of my free time to this card game for the last like 8 years basically, has been essentially that I want this game to be in the top 3, or at the very least right now, like if we talk about the top 3 card games, people say Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and then Vanguard in the 4th place. But the space between Vanguard in 4th and like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon or Magic in 3rd is insanely huge, way bigger than this little gap of my fingers. So, you know, it's insanely huge, and you know, people know those first 3, the big IPs, people know them, but a lot of people don't know Vanguard. And for me, my sort of mission, whether it was with like, part of the reason why I cover everything about Vanguard, whether it's like Zero EX or the TCG, is because no matter what, I want it to somehow one day reach that top 3. It doesn't have to necessarily knock down the top 3, but become the 4th game. Become the 4th game that is regarded as highly and at the top as those 3 IPs. And so like, I want to do everything, whether as a commentator, content creator, streamer, whatever path I must take, like I want Vanguard to reach that stage. It might seem really trivial, like of course I have my own like aspirations and inspirations, my actual like professional workplace, but it's like, this is my hobby, it's also my passion, it's also something that I'm ridiculously dedicated to, and you know, basically as much as I am dedicated to my actual professional life, but it's something that I feel like I want to do. You know, this is something that is sort of my dream, you know, to achieve. It's like when we were restreaming the actual overdress like reveal, you know, there was a lot of people popping off and going crazy and getting hype, and like we broke record numbers and everything, and there was like thousands of people watching my English restream. But for me, it didn't really matter that it was people watching me. I didn't really care that people were like watching my channel, watching my like perspective of it or whatever. To me, that what mattered is that, wow, like Vanguard can attract nearly 3,000 people to watch at the same time on some random dude's channel. Like, it's not even the official channel, literally like 3,000 people gather just to see that. And to me, that was the amazing part. Like, Vanguard still got this. Like, Vanguard is still in the situation where I haven't seen a lot of the other digital TCGs even achieve that kind of thing, you know? And it's just like, to me, it just shows that Vanguard is still capable of so much potential, and that is just, it fills me with so much hype. And you know, I've spent so long just talking about my like dreams and aspirations. I haven't even talked about overdress yet, but that's what I want to like give you as context on what I'm going to talk about going forward. And so I think that this move from being clan-based to being nation-based is honestly one of the big ways, as well as the new director and whatever changes are happening in Bushiroad. We don't really know much about that outside of the new director. I think that those changes to being nation-based, you know, that basically every clan, quote-unquote, so every nation gets support in every big set, you know, every 2 months. It looks to be a solid schedule, nothing too rushed. I think that that will help to push it to those card games, because there you will always have people engaged in the game. You won't have people that just play one clan that just like, they get hyped for like the 1 month that their main clan's cards are revealed. Those cards come out, they play for another month with those cards, then they get bored, and then they dip for the remaining 10 months of that year. And so this way, people will always be engaged, at least in theory, right? People will always be engaged because if they pick, let's say, like Brandgate or Dragon Empire, they're always going to be looking forward to what's coming out for those nations, and that's going to be really, really nice. And I think that that's a great way to sort of like already kind of grow the community, I guess, or sustain the community, I guess is a better word for it. And for me, that is really, really important. And I generally like, people have told me to make a video talking about the director. I would personally love to interview him, because we know he speaks English really well, and you know, he has done a lot of interviews in the past. You know, I'm not like a news agency or anything, but I think it'd be amazing to sit down with a new director and talk about his past and talk about his achievements and what he wants to bring into Vanguard going into the future. If I can ever get that arranged, I think that would be insane. If not, I mean, I want to make a video just talking about the director himself, because it's because of his achievements in the esports industry and in the TCG industry that I really believe that he can not only bring forth really good change to the card game itself, but especially to the global community, because like, I feel like having best of 3 events is no longer a pipe dream, you know, things like that. Or having a joined worlds where we finally have Japan and the rest of the world together in one event isn't just a pipe dream anymore either. So those kind of things I think can come attached with a new director. Not just like huge changes to the game that we're seeing with Overdress, but also changes to how the community functions too. And so I have really huge hopes. Like, maybe it's not the best thing to have such insane hopes when, you know, he's barely, I mean, I guess barely, we've seen him literally for like 2 presentations so far, and he's also, I think, going to be in the English presentation for English product like tomorrow, or so like Friday of like 22nd January. So it's kind of hard to say, you know, what is actually gonna happen with him in charge, but based on his past, I have really, really high hopes there. All right, let's actually talk about the changes and all that kind of stuff. $4 starter decks is powerful. Like, this is insane. Remember when like Digimon came out last year and they came out with the 500 yen starter decks in... So let me give you some context about 500 yen starter decks. So one of the big things of why 500 yen starter decks are a huge thing, I didn't even have this scripted, this just came to my mind. This comes back to the Pokemon card boom of 2018. So what happened in 2018 is that the Pokemon TCG released 500 yen starter decks, which are basically full decks you can start out with like GXs. So think of like, you know, boss units, GX Pokemon, you know, like boss units with like basically fully equipped decks that you could start playing in tournaments with, and they only cost $5. 5 doubloons, 5 bones, whatever you want to call them. $5, and that was huge. And then big content creators saw that and they were like, $5 for Pokemon TCG? I love Pokemon, I've never played the card game though, but it's $5, I have no excuse not to try it out. So of course they jumped on it, they tried it out, and then the big YouTubers, literally Japan's #1 YouTuber, made a video talking about them. He wasn't even sponsored, he was just like, y'all check this out. And then people saw that, other YouTubers started doing it, other like branches of media started reporting on it. What happened was the Pokemon card boom of 2018, where it became a social phenomenon. Like, the queues to buy a new product when a new set came out were the same as Comiket, like hundreds of meters. If you Google this in Japanese, you will find pictures of like Pokemon Center queues going outside all across the entire mall that the Pokemon Center is in, outside into the train station. Like, it's insane what level of hype 500 yen starter decks could actually have. Now again, when Digimon came out last year, we had 500 yen starter decks for those too. This was seen as a really good entry point. Digimon TCG boomed in Japan when it first came out. People were attached to Digimon as an IP because it is a pretty popular IP, and on top of that, $5. Oh my god, who doesn't have $5? That's basically a Big Mac. I can just go and purchase one and get started right now. Hey buddy, you got $5? Dude, let's go try this game out. We'll have something to do in our free time or something to bond over. And, you know, the same thing happens there again. So Bushiroad's move to look at the 500 yen starter decks and go like, you know what? 333. What if we go even below that? And the fact that that is like an entire deck in one, so the producer telling us that it's basically like 4 copies of most important cards. He didn't say specifically every one will have, like, there'll be 4 cards of everything in each starter deck. He basically said more or less you'll have 4 cards of everything. So, you know, we don't have the exact information. We'll find out in 2 months when it actually releases what the actual list of the starter deck is, but we should assume that it's probably, or we can assume that it's probably going to be like the V-Series trial decks of like, you might need to buy a second one for some cards, but they might not even be that important compared to what's in the actual booster set. So having that as an accessibility point is insane. Now we switch over to the global scene. What's important about this in the global scene is because Digimon moved into the global scene and they had the option of bringing over 500 yen starter decks and, you know, marking it at like 5 USD, 6 USD, maybe even 7 USD, you know, that's still pretty accessible. 7 starts to kind of break that like low accessible point for me though. And what they did instead was like, we're gonna slap a pack into those starter decks and put like a $12, $13, $14 or $15 price tag on those, just like every other starter deck in TCGs normally. And nothing's wrong with that. The Digimon TCG is still booming, it's still popping off because people are used to that. But this has never been explored before. What other Western TCG release can you tell me? And there might be one. Please tell me if there has been one that has actually been 4 USD. Like, I don't know any. I've played most TCGs in the market except for like Force of Will and some other like Dragon Balls. Like, some I haven't played, but basically everything else that's been big on the TCG market I have actually tried out. Tell me any starter deck product, especially that doesn't have to be bought 3 or 4 times, that was 4 USD MSRP. That is insane. That is ridiculous. So I can't even imagine what effects this will have on the global market, where people that play Vanguard can go to their friends like, yo, you want to go McDonald's? Or do you want to like cook at home or like cook in my dorm and let's go pick up these starter decks instead, you know? Like, I can't stress enough how big the cheap entry point is gonna be. Like, it doesn't even matter that like you know, maybe those people that pick up starter decks won't actually play the game competitively. They'll just play the starter decks. But even having those people that just pick up those starter decks and play the game, be sitting at locals and playing, will mean that more people come in, they see people playing, and they're like, oh, what game is this? It's like, oh, it's Vanguard, it's really different. By the way, the starter deck is $4, you want to try? You know, and having that is just, it's insane. Like, I can't even imagine the effect it's gonna have, and I feel like even if it doesn't hit as hard, it's still gonna be way bigger than any other like entry product that we've had into Vanguard before. Now, again, the nation direction, I'm a huge fan of, honestly. I like the fact that every nation will get supported in every main set. You know, there's gonna be the 6 nations. We don't know about the 6th one, the Lyrical Monasterio. Maybe that one will be kind of like Bermuda, where it gets like once or twice a year support, because I've heard from a few Bermuda mains that they like the fact that they only have to update their deck once a year. And so we're gonna see, you know, maybe they get always supported, maybe just get sometimes supported. And I think, like, you know, doing the Lyrical Monasterio support every time when it's just one clan might be a bit weird, because, like, you know, we know that the other nations, they encompass several clans from like 3 to 5 or 6. So I think 6 is the cap, actually. So it's gonna be, I don't know, I feel like it's gonna be like easier to explore ideas for all the other nations, because there's so many clans that encompass them, rather than just like, oh, here's a different flavor of Bermuda. You know, maybe they explore whales. Maybe we get just like a build of sea creatures for Lyrical Monasterio. Who knows? I've also seen this kind of like worry from people that are like, oh, like I'm part of this like Dimension Police group on Facebook, and I've seen a lot of Dimension Police players literally go like, ah, Brandgate, it just has like waifus and it has Link Joker. There's no robots. What are we supposed to do? Oh my god, I'm quitting Vanguard. Like, this seems like such an over-exaggeration when we know that those clans make up those nations, and they even say on the first product page of the first booster set that in addition to the themes explored in the starter decks, there's going to be one more theme explored in the booster set. So that basically tells us that each booster set will explore about 2 themes per nation. So that's around 10 themes, and there's 10 triple rares. So Y'all catch what I'm saying, right? You're on the same wavelength, right? Basically 1 triple per nation theme, potentially, is what I'm thinking, right? Maybe more, maybe less, who knows? We're gonna find out later on. And so with that in mind, it's like, of course they're not gonna milk, like, for example, let's take Brandkid for example. They're not just gonna milk the Starvader looking guys and the like waifu police, you know, every single set. Of course not. They're gonna explore different themes. I'm expecting the like waifu police or whatever to not be explored for like until like DBT03 again after DBT01. Like, I think they're gonna give us a complete deck for one theme in one booster set, and then next set explore another theme, and then maybe once a year of product has passed, so if we have every 2 months, that's going to be 6 sets. So once a year of product has passed of main booster sets, maybe then we'll come back to that theme and give it an upgrade, and then give the last one of like DBT02 an upgrade and stuff like that, while also incorporating even more new themes. Like, this allows for so much potential in creativity, because now they're not even locked to like the aesthetics of Dimension Police. Like, when you think of Dimension Police, it's robots. When you think of Grand Blue, it's pirates and zombies. When you think of Aquaforce, it's shrimp and marine generals, you know? They're no longer locked to that. They can explore anything as long as it kind of falls into the ballpark, you know? This like waifu police that we have for Brandgate, that was never really a thing outside of things like Miracle Beauty, I guess. So I'm personally really excited about this potential. Like, do y'all understand how much new stuff could come out of this? And y'all heard me before say, like, I want Overdress to be just new, and that's what we're gonna get. I am so damn hyped. And I didn't even start talking about premium. Oh my god. I know there's some people kind of saying like, oh, it seems too complicated, I don't know if I want to bother. It's gonna be so cool to take, like, for me, like, I don't know, take my Blau premium deck that I just deck profiled and put in like some of those waifu police cards in there that like potentially like, you know, arrest your opponent's cards or whatever. Like, being able to explore deck building like that is gonna be ridiculous. It's gonna be so cool, and I'm personally just, I'm ridiculously hyped for that. Like, I can't really put it in any other words. The potential, like, the thought that the starter decks will release and already have such a huge impact on premium. Have we ever had that before? That, you know, to impact a format, you would normally have a booster set release. Like, just the trial deck on its own usually didn't do much, maybe add a couple new cards to a deck that was already in the meta or something. But here, like, we get the first 5 starter decks release, premium's meta just boof, everything changes. Literally everything changes, because now Royal Paladin can play some random Keter Sanctuary card that does nothing Royal Paladin like, or Genesis can play like a super Royal Paladin styled card or whatever. Like, that potential. Gear Chronicle can play like the Bruce Spike Brothers looking dude, you know? It's so much potential. I'm insanely hyped. Like, I cannot actually pinpoint how many things there is to think about just from the starter decks alone. Now, obviously, like, I can't just be sitting here and like getting hyped and like, oh, pog and everything, you know? It's like, I can't just be overhyped, you know, even though, although overdress, overhype, nah, but that's a bad thing. Never mind, let's leave that idea there. So, you know, obviously, something we've seen, especially from the Japanese community, I've been keeping track with like every community as much as possible these last few days, but especially with the Japanese community, it's been interesting because we've been seeing some people that go like, oh my god, the ride deck is the best idea ever. Like, there was one competitive player that said something along the lines of, like, the idea to build your deck to not brick when you're riding was part of what makes a good player, which I kind of agree with, yeah. But then he was like, you know, if you had to play around being great stuck and you had to like find a way to win while being great stuck is so exciting, you know, and stuff like that. And then some people agreed with that. But then one dude pulls up and he's like, what are you saying? The ride deck is literally godlike. Like, he actually used a Japanese term for godlike, and he's like saying that being great stuck was exciting is just an excuse that you use when you lose. And I was like, damn, they're popping off at each other. I've never seen this before. So there's a little bit of like, you know, arguments going on, but it's not like on a grand scale. It's just like several people amongst each other. The one trend that I did see was certain like clan loyalists. So for example, I myself also consider myself a clan loyalist to Dimension Police. Like, I am very openly a Dimension Police main. I've literally made a video about why Dimension Police means so much to me. But certain people that really love certain clans, they were making these huge posts, like almost like, you know, like they would take the iPhone like notes, they would write a huge thing there and like tweet it out, and basically they would write like, I am a Mega Colony main, and because I don't see any Mega Colony in Overdress or anything that looks like Mega Colony, I will be quitting. Thank you for the last 10 years. Goodbye. You know, things like that. And then there's people that are kind of like parodying it, and then they're like, they start with like the first paragraph is like really sad, like, I am a this and this main. I am a this and this main. Thank you for the last 10 years of Vanguard. And they go like, oh my god, Dragon Empire. Whoa, pog. Oh my god, like Stoicheia. Oh my god, that's so cool. Like, they like bait each other and stuff. Like, it's looking at the Japanese community has been so fun. But on a more real note, I know that people will quit. Like, I know people that really love the fact that Vanguard was clan-based, people that are concerned that they're gonna have to update their decks every 2 months, which I don't think that will be the case. I think these sort of like archetypes, let's say, that are gonna be in each nation will be sort of like, will work with each other, and then you'll have certain tech cards that you put in, maybe like 1 or 2 cards from every coming set that you upgrade with. So it's not like you're gonna have to put down like $100 every 2 months, right? Rather, I think it's gonna be just like small upgrades here and there, but the focus of the deck won't change too much, in my opinion. You'll have like the boss unit that you build around, and maybe tech certain cards in as you go with each new release. I know that, you know, certain players that like love the V series, for example, or don't really like the nation-based design will quit, and I'm not being blind to that. You know, I've had people come up to me like, oh, like, you're just hyping, like, why aren't you addressing the fact that, you know, people might quit because of this? I definitely know that people will quit. I know that people aren't all about this new system. You know, some people don't like the ride deck, some people don't like the nation system, some people are saying it's a completely different game, it doesn't even feel like Vanguard anymore. I understand where all of those points are coming from, and I don't want to downplay that, but at the same time, we've seen as evidence of the last reboot that the older players that didn't like the new sort of like path that the game was taking still lived on through premium, basically. You know, those players, whether they came back and played premium or whether they just like didn't even play standard to begin with and just played premium the entire time, they showed that, you know, that old player base that wasn't all about the new stuff still existed. So I don't think that, you know, like, if you really don't like change and you really don't like what's happening, you know, I guess that's what the V standard or V premium exists for. I'm gonna call it Vmium going forward. I think that makes it easier. And I think that at least, you know, there you can still play with no changes. I mean, you're gonna be looking at every 6 months for new cards, which will be very stale in my opinion, but that does exist. And honestly, premium, like, you still have the option to just play with your clans. I think like you'll still, you know, you will probably, to make your decks better, will have to put in certain, like, you know, put like a Brandgate card into your DP list, or, you know, put in like a Dragon Empire card into your Kagero list to make it better, but that'll still be an option. And like casual premium is like the most fun premium. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and say this, as of right now, before overdress cards come out, casual premium is peak Vanguard, in my opinion. It is the Vanguard I enjoy the most. Tier 2 premium is some of the best Vanguard I've ever played. Like, give it a try, take your favorite deck of all time, it doesn't matter if it's trash or garbage, just try to build a deck around it in premium, tell your friend to do the same, and play a game. Like, honestly, you're probably gonna have some of the most fun you've ever had playing this game. It is ridiculous how fun it is, and I wish I would have discovered how fun it is earlier, to be honest. So I think also for the people that are feeling like uneasy, they feel like they can't really trust Bushiroad, I think it's the change in lead for the director that kind of gives me that like immediate feeling of trust. And I think, you know, it's fine to feel like you don't want to trust them immediately. It's fine to also hold off. Like, I personally think that if you're not feeling 100% hyped about this, it's fine to wait until the card releases come out. We don't even know what Persona Ride does yet, you know? Wait for the mechanics to get revealed. Wait until we see what, like, the power levels of the cards are. Wait until we see, like, the, you know, the ratios for the boxes and stuff like that. You know, you can take your time to make up your mind. You know, you don't have to decide everything right now. You don't have to decide to, like, sell your collection or, like, to quit the game or to, like, be hyped. Like, just because everyone else is super hyped about overdress, that doesn't mean that you have to join there if you're not entirely feeling that way. You know, you don't have to force yourself to like something that you're not 100% on board with. And so I think that it's perfectly fine to take your time to decide. You know, this is a hobby, this is a card game, you know, it's not like, it's not a life or death situation. You know, you can take your time and you explore other hobbies in the meantime while you make your mind up as well. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I'm personally really glad that a lot of people, and the grand majority, are really hyped. And honestly, this is the most united I've seen this community in 3 years at least. Like, I think even in, like, only in the middle of G did we really feel this united and this, like, you know, like, hand in hand, like, together. You know, this to me means so much that, like, I can actually go back to Facebook. Facebook isn't just, like, you know, different groups, like, throwing grenades at each other and just, like, you know, kind of, like, popping off on each other. There's actually, it's positive vibes. It's cool to see, like, the memes are funny again. Like, this image is popping off for no reason, you know, things like that. It's, to me, it's great. I honestly love it, but if you're not all about it, take your time, and I think that's completely fine. And nobody should make you feel like forced to make up your mind right now if you're about it or not. Just tell them, I'm still thinking about it, you know, maybe I'm a bit more on this side or on that side, but I'm just thinking about it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think for me, also the fact that they confirmed that the first set will have, you know, 2 focuses per nation is so cool. Like, I'm really hyped about that. The fact they got rid of VRs, I think I immediately let that be known when I talked about the news. Like, thank God. And, you know, 10 triple rares per set, 1 SP per box is actually pretty insane too. That means in a case you get 20 SPs, which is pretty nuts in my opinion, and I wonder how many foils we're going to get on top of that too. I'm actually going to be probably investing in a case of the first set just to get like as much of stuff as possible to build these decks. And so, I don't know, for me, it just, there's so many reasons to get excited. That's all I can really say. I'm really excited about the future of this game, and I really like the changes they're making. The only thing, alright, haven't talked about this one yet, Overtrigger. This is the only thing that I think a lot of people are like, about, because it's like, so cool, did you have to do that? You know, that's kind of like the sort of impression I get from the community. I'm kind of the same, but I've been really thinking about it more and more, and I sometimes feel like I myself am making it feel a little bit overblown in a way. I think even for myself, it is a little bit overblown. It is a little bit like we're kind of over-exaggerating, but at the same time, maybe not, because, you know, checking one of those, the Etranger ones that we get in the starter decks, and like just giving 2 units plus like 100 million is, I don't know, seems a bit too much, you know? Like in the early phases, like you're not gonna be calling that many cards, so maybe you're just gonna check one, give all effects to Vanguard, and it's just gonna hit, you know, it doesn't really matter. But in those deciding moments in the game, like it might shut down a turn, it might completely like make someone that wasn't supposed to win suddenly win, you know, and things like that. People don't really like that, and people have been equating it to like, oh, but like a 6 damage, like a defensive heal does the same, or like 2 defensive triggers does the same, or 2 offensive triggers does the same. And I kind of do agree with that. Like, that didn't really have to be 100 million. You could have literally made it plus 50k, and that's basically enough to shut down turns as well, you know? Like, it didn't have to be plus 100 million. It feels like they just did that for the purpose of exaggeration, for the purpose of making you feel like, wow, you know, and like just that kind of effect. And I don't know. Personally, I don't think it was really necessary to make it that overblown, but at the same time, I don't think it's gonna be, I guess, as impactful, because keep in mind that the Overtriggers will have, like, they're supposed to have the flavor of the nation, right? So they've already shown us the arts of all 5 nations, like, first Overtrigger, if we're getting more. They look like Zeroth Dragons, like, returned as triggers, which is kind of crazy. But what I do like about it is that, like, they say they're gonna have, like, effects pertaining to that nation. So, because the effect of the trigger itself is give something plus 100 million, draw a card, and then banish this card. That's what they all do. But then they have an additional effect. So the Itrantra one gives another unit plus 100 million. But then I imagine like the Dragon Empire one will probably say something like retire an opponent's rearguard. Imagine if you check that on defensive and you retire an opponent's rearguard. That feels pretty good. It's kind of like a random G-guard, like a random miracle G-guard that comes out of nowhere, right? Or like the, I don't know, the Brandgate one says reduce one of your opponent's units to 0 power, you know, or things like that. That would be kind of cool. I personally wouldn't really mind if that's how they explore it. I want to play it myself. I almost want to like make a proxy Overtrigger and just put it into one of my like V series decks or one of my premium decks and just see how often it comes up and how impactful it really feels. I might even do that, to be honest, just to see how in a deck of 50 cards impactful it really feels, and then we're gonna find out. You know, I feel like that's gonna be quite interesting. Now again, I feel like this video is dragging on like crazy, so it really is becoming a podcast, but I'm gonna just talk about the Ride deck really quickly. Ride deck I really like. I personally am a huge fan of the Ride deck. Some people are saying it like takes away from the skill, stuff like that. To me, the fact that it is an optional thing as well is, like, above all else really important. And it's like the fact that it just exists to make sure you never brick, and the producer, you know, essentially emphasized the point that this is like, they're trying to add things to the game that reduce this variance, and it helps the good players actually win when it comes to competitive events. And this will definitely do that. You know, Overtriggers feel like a counteract to that, but at the very least, the Ride deck definitely does. And, you know, having that as a sort of like, instead of G-Assist, just feels like something that maybe should have been there from the first place. And like, with that, you can kind of convince me that best of 1 is maybe okay, although I really hope we still get best of 3, especially with Overtriggers existing, because that helps us to reduce the sort of randomness of those. But I personally really like it. I think it's a great system. I think that honestly this should have been maybe in the game for a while now, maybe, and it's going to be most interesting to me is how deck builds will change. Like, this will change the fundamentals of deck building, period. Like, do we even need this many grade 1s anymore? Is boosting that important anymore? Like, will the effects give power to the cards in the front row enough that we don't even need to play boosters as much? Maybe some decks just like play a bunch of grade 2s for a rush strategy. Maybe we get back to like early Vanguard where people were running like grade 1 rush decks, so they just played a deck full of grade 1 vanillas and just rushed from turn 1 onwards, like non-stop, just ba 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 ba. Like, are we gonna come back to that? There's so many different things that could be happening and like could be explored in the new standard that like I'm hyped for that format as it is. Like, I don't have this feeling with when the V series started where like my heart shattered because we were going back to nostalgia, but on top of that, it was this feeling of like the most like bland set possible where everything was like, oh, I get almost 1 plus 5k, there's only like one build for each clan, and like the power level was already off from set 1. It was just like, whew, I really hope we don't have that and we have like creative effects, you know, cool effects. Vanguard isn't a baby's game, you know, please develop it with like your audience in mind, please. And so I really hope that it's gonna be, you know, well explored, and that the first set will bring us a lot of exciting things, because just having like 2 things, like basically having 10 different decks explored in set 1 is already really hype as like a preface. But for me, it's really important that the card effects are actually cool and interact in a nice way, and that it's not like, you know, turn card sideways, you know, VBTO1 level of power, and that we actually have like cool interactive skills and that make standard fun, you know, from the very get-go. Like, straight out the gate, I want it to be a fun format that I can advertise and tell people like, this is Vanguard. Because when I was advertising in my locals to get people to play the actual V series game when it first came out, I was kind of like, yeah, this is so fun, I love Vanguard, as I attack with my, like, Alfred that got plus 10k power because of a Blaster Blade, like, oh, this isn't how much, like, what Vanguard is capable of. And so I really hope that these new releases at least show what Vanguard is capable of. And finally, last thing, please specify that we're getting a premium collection. Premium Collection is a huge deal in the West. We, Western YouTubers, got to reveal Premium Collection cards. Like, our BCS player counts for both Standard and Premium don't actually differ that much. It is less because Standard is a more popular and more accessible format, but Premium is a huge deal in the West. Like, the Eternal format is a huge deal in the English-speaking community, so Mori producer, please, if you really care about the global market and about the Western player base, we need some word about a Premium Collection, because this is so important for us. And like, just having at least one UG unit per year, that's all we ask for. And there's people in the Japanese community too. Like, I've seen posts already of people like, we are getting a Premium Collection this year, right? You haven't said anything about it, but we are getting one, right? Please, you know? So I'm kind of feeling the same way. So I'd like to hear something sooner than later. It would also be weird if they announced Premium Collection to be like an English exclusive, because that feels like a spit in the face to all the Japanese players that have been really enjoying Premium lately as well. So please just say something about it. Like, at least like a confirmation. We don't even need a visual. We don't need a date, a cover. Just say Premium Collection sometime 2021. That's all. That's all I'm asking for right now. That's all we need. Anyway, I barely even realized we're already at like 40 minutes. So I'm gonna call the video here. These are my first thoughts on overdress. I wanted to just like get as much out of the way as possible. I'll be talking a lot more about overdress on my streams. I feel like it's gonna be the main thing I'm gonna be talking about for a long time going forward. And I'm probably gonna be doing more dedicated videos to certain topics. Here I just kind of covered all my like first 2-3 days of thoughts in like one go, and I just wanted to like get it all out there so you guys can discuss in the comments too. Please talk about it in the comments. Like, I'm reading everything right now. I'm watching every, like, even the smallest YouTubers with like 5 subscribers, they make a video on their thoughts on overdress. I'm gonna watch it. Link it to me on Twitter. I don't care. I will watch it. I genuinely want to know everyone's thoughts, and like, just let me know how you're feeling. Like, how are you feeling about this? Are you excited? Are you hyped? What are you excited about? Are you feeling a little bit hesitant? What are you feeling hesitant about? Like, I want to know everything. I feel so hyped. I feel like there hasn't been an era in Vanguard in the last like 5 years where I felt this hype. Maybe 2017 was the last time actually, but like, honestly, I'm so damn hyped for this, and I can't wait for the future of Vanguard. 2021 is going to be insane for this game, and I can already feel it. But anyway, on that note though, that's going to be it for me today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.